Okay, so let's jump in and start designing our very first ticker scene. Now over here in my projects, what I did is actually set up a folder here where I'm going to work out of. And I have a little ticker project, and I'm just going to restrict this view here so that we can strictly just work in this. And I have all my materials, fonts, and everything that I'm going to use right in this scene here. To begin, what I'm going to do is actually create a new scene. So I'm going to go ahead, right click in the window and say create new scene. I'm going to then give it a name here, and let's just give it a name such as Ticker BG. Now this is going to be our main scene, and we're going to design all of our elements within this main scene called Ticker BG. So I'm going to go ahead and then open the scene here, and you can see down here that we have our scene open. It tells you the little name here. So we're going to go ahead and begin working in here. First thing that I'm going to do is just drag a group down, and let's just begin by naming this something like main crawl group or something like that. Naming conventions are somewhat important in Viz Ticker, so you will want to kind of pay attention to what names you give your containers, groups, and other things like that. Now to begin, I'm just going to start with a basic design here, and we're not going to concentrate too much on the design. We just want to get more of the fundamentals down. So what I did is actually I have a pre-made object that I made here that I'm just going to slide down as a subcontainer of this group. And if I want to go further and organize this a little bit more, I can come in here and just call this group is design. You can see my background is nothing too complicated. It's an object, so I'm just going to split it. And really what it is it's just a rectangle with a little image on it here. And now we have also this rectangle slash image buried in a subcontainer, and this subcontainer has the inheritable. So that's where it's getting this little gradient. Also have a little outline here, green, just to give it a little bit of outline as well. So that's my background. What I'm going to do is just leave it there as is for now. Now that you have your background, what I need to do is actually go into my built-ins, and we need to look for our scroller function. Depending which version of Artist you're using, it will be found in different areas. So I'm using Vizrt Artist 3.6, and I actually have a folder here. If you're using earlier versions of Vizrt Artist, it's most likely going to be found in your Global Primitives folder itself. So once you do find this plugin called Scroller, I'm going to go ahead and drag it down into my main crawl group. And right away I'm just going to go ahead and rename this to something called main crawl, just to let us know that this is our main crawl that we're working with. Okay, from here I'm just going to position this near the bottom, so let's just turn on our safe area, our title area, and it just gives us a little guide here as to where to place it. So I'm going to use my main crawl group here to slide this down. I'm just going to slide it down on the Y position. If you want to turn your SA and TA off, then it's fine. You can leave it on if you want. Okay, so once we have the scroller in here and we drag it down into the scene tree, basically you'll notice you have 3 subcontainers, and we'll address what exactly they're doing later. But we can also click on our scroller in here and it takes us into the editor. Now first thing that I want to do within my scroller is actually move the Z position up so that it's not interfering with the background. And once we do that, you can see these little bounding box here. If I go into my scroller, we have an option here for show bounds. I can turn that on or off. I'm going to leave it on for the moment. We also have this scroll region width. So I can increase this or decrease this to tell it how far or how wide I want it to go. I'm just going to go to the edges here, so I'll just keep increasing that. Now I can finally turn that show bounds off if you want. You don't really need that on. Like I said, it's just a guide. Before I do anything else within this editor here, in the scroller editor, what I'm going to do is try and make a animation for how I want my ticker to come on. So I'm going to go into my design group here. I'm just going to use the main group to quickly create an animation. I'm going to set my axis to right. I'm going to set my scaling to single. I'm going to work backwards here with my keyframes. So I'm going to start at 30. And this is where I want my background to land, or how I want it to come on. So I'm going to hit set keyframe. I'm going to rewind my timeline to 0, and then just take my X scale back down to 0, and then set another keyframe. So here in our group you can see that we have a keyframe. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and it takes us into the stage. Now here you see our animation. It resides within a director. I need to rename this director, and again, naming conventions will be important, especially when we're talking about directors, stop points, and so forth. So let's keep this kind of consistent. I'm going to call this main, which relates to our main crawl down here. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and that's now our director name. What we need to do now is actually make stop points for this director. So I'm going to take my timeline bar, rewind it all the way to the beginning, highlight my director, hit the stop point, and we're going to name this stop point O. O stands for out. I'm going to go ahead and advance my timeline to where my background comes on. I'm going to hit my director, create another stop point. This time you can call it anything you want. I'm going to keep it somewhat consistent so that I know what it's related to. I'm just going to call it main 1. Now I'm going to go back into my scroller, and this is where we need to start coming in and filling out some of the information in here. First, what I need to do is turn on the Show Advanced button. We have two areas here that we need to fill out, an element source and a layer. The element source refers to our stop point, which is in our in stop point. And if I click on it, you can see that it's named main 1. So I'm going to go back into my scroller. I'm going to put main 1 in our element source. Our layer here refers to the director. So I'm going to go back into the scroller and fill out my layer here and type in main. Now from here I need to choose which type of ticker that I want, and this is set in the mode here. We're going to leave it as a scrolling. In the direction, we're going to leave it to the left, and I have my scroll region width set up already, so that's okay. We can adjust the scroll speed. I'm just going to leave it at 1, and our minimum spacing, I'm just going to go ahead and type in a random number of like 20, and our padding, I'm also going to type in 20 as well. The last thing that I need to do within the editor here is go ahead and turn the active button to on. Now as far as setting up our design here and the scroller plugin, we're all set up to go. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and close this group, and now what we need to do is actually make the text for it. So to do that, I'm actually going to drag a new group down, and this is one of the most important naming conventions in here in this group. So we're going to call this lowercase ticker underscore templates. So this is pretty much a golden rule that this group here needs to be called ticker templates. Within this ticker templates group, this is where we're going to actually throw our text. So I'm going to add another group in here, and we're going to go into our font folder, choose a particular font that we want to use, and I'm going to go ahead and drag a font down into this group. Now if I want to get real specific, I can name this something related to my main crawl, so I'm just going to call this main crawl group, and then we can call this text something as well. So I'll go ahead and double click this, and we'll call this main crawl text. Now as far as naming conventions, these two groups you can pretty much call anything you want. However, this top group again needs to be called ticker templates. If you want to go ahead in your text editor, so I can pretty much type anything that I want in here. So at this point, what we may want to do is just check to make sure our size is okay. And what I'm going to do is just slide this down, and you can see that it's going behind the banner. I'm just going to increase the Z position here. And the size a little bit big, so I'll just scale this down a little bit maybe. I want to make it big enough so that everyone can see it in this tutorial, but again, it may not be totally realistic for your needs. So whatever size you need to make it, or however your design needs to look, you can go ahead and make that in your own scene. So once I'm satisfied with the size here, I'm just going to go ahead and reset my Y again. I'm just going to leave it in the middle area there, because ultimately what's going to happen is we're going to hide this ticker templates, and these two groups here, or containers, are going to get thrown inside of our source group. So now that we have that ready to go, what I need to do is actually add a control onto our text. So I'm going to go into my built-ins, into my control folder, plugins, and we're going to drag the control text down here. Before I do anything else, I'm going to go right into the text control plugin. I'm going to change my field identifier, or note my field identifier, which is 1. That's okay. I'm going to leave that as is. Description, we can give it a description. It picked up our main crawl text, so that's fine for me. If you do hit the refresh button, what's going to happen is that it's just going to fill in the information that we actually typed within the text box. Now you do notice what happened when we drug this control text in here, in that it threw the control object to the very top group. I want to get rid of it off of the top group, so I'm going to slide this control object onto the main crawl group and then get rid of it on my top group, so that now I have a text with a control text, and the group right above it has the control object. I'm going to click on my control object, and I'm going to give it a description here, and if we just want to use the same description as we have on the container, that's okay. I'm going to call this main crawl group. From here we can pretty much go ahead and test this, but before I do, I need to turn this ticker templates off, and I'll just minimize it as well. And when we go to save it, this is how I want to save it, with this ticker templates group hidden, but this main crawl group here is not hidden. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So what I need to do before I jump over to Ticker Wizard is, again, just make sure your scene is saved, and we're going to throw our Vizrt Artist on air. Now I have to do this because I'm using everything on the same machine or local host. Your configuration may be a little bit different, however, so for instance, your engine may not be on the same machine as your ticker, vice versa, and so forth. But for this tutorial I have to use everything on this machine, so I need to turn my Vizrt Artist on air. From there I'm just going to jump over to Vizrt Wizard. Now this is Vizrt Wizard in its open shell here. We have nothing set up, so what I'm going to do is jump into our main page here, and the first thing that I need to do is hit the connect button. And since we have Vizrt Artist on air, it's connected. If your artist is not on air, or your machine is not connected to an engine, then it won't connect. From here we have another option right below it. It's called select scene. So this is where we actually want to select which scene that we want to wizard. So I'm going to go ahead and click the select scene button, and it opens up a new window, and from here we can actually navigate to where we saved our ticker scene. So if I navigate down to my ticker folder, you can see here's our ticker BG. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on that. From there, what you notice now is that we have this little box that became active. It says create scrolling carousel. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this box. Takes us into another new window, and here we can see we have this little box that says available carousels, and when I click on it, it actually filled out the carousel name here. So I'm just going to highlight our main/main1, and I'm going to hit next. Now this is our ticker template that we actually set up in Artist. So it says main crawl group here, so I'm going to go ahead and check that, and I'm going to hit next and then finish. So our ticker should now be all set up and ready to play back. So what I need to do is go into Viz Ticker Client and actually test it. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to Ticker Client. So once in Ticker Client here, you can see that what we have is one tab up here called Main 1, and we also have another tab here called Main Control. So we use this Main Control to actually send our ticker to air or to take it off the air. Before we do that and test it though, I'm going to come back into my main 1 and add some information to throw into the ticker. And we can do this by using these little icons on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this new message button, and what comes up here is our control text. So this is letting us actually change our text here if we want. So we can come in here and change or write any type of data that I want. So we can just type something like that. We'll hit save, and once we hit save, you can see that it saved it up in this little description here. So now I need to take this and slide it over to this new window. So let's make one more source of data here. Okay, so we can just type anything in here. We'll just say the Pope visits the world, and we're just going to go ahead and hit save, and we'll drag that across as well. To test, I'm actually going to bring up Artist again, and we're on air, and let's bring up our Ticker Wizard 3D, or Ticker Client, and I'm just going to minimize this a little bit so that we can see. Now I'm going to go back into my main control and turn on my ticker system main, my program main, and then my main 1. When we do that, it's going to bring on the ticker, and you can see that we have a little bit of tweaking here to do because our text is a little high for our background. But the main gist of it is that we got it working. It's receiving the data that we typed in there. So now we just have to go back into Artist and tweak it a little bit. So if we want to do that, what we can do is just jump back into our server, and what I'm going to do is, rather than just making changes like this, I'm going to go ahead and close it right away. Now I closed it because I just want to show you another way that you can test your ticker scroll or your ticker text here to tweak it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the background scene. When you are designing for a ticker, there's one little trick here that you can do to help you align or design it a little bit better, and it involves changing the name up here. So I have this main crawl group. I'm going to click on my little object control, and I'm just going to copy my description here. I'm going to come down to my main crawl, and instead of using this element source for the moment as main1, what I'm going to do is just paste my object name in here, and I'm going to surround this with parentheses, and then I'm just going to hit reinitialize and trigger. So now you can see it brings on our text here, and we can kind of tweak this as is. When it comes to tweaking, we don't want to adjust the ticker templates, but we want to come down here and adjust the main crawl. So what I need to do is actually lower this a little bit. And since we are going from left to right, one thing that we do want to make sure again is that our text here is set to left justified. And if you want to change it to texture as well, you can do that. So one other thing that we need to mention is what's actually happening here. If we open up our main crawl group and go within our scroller, we can see that this ticker template group up here is actually being thrown into our source groups down here. So as we let this crawl, we can see that our main crawl group with our text is just being force fed into our source group here. Before I save this, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this, and now I have it all set up. So I'm going to hit save, but before I do that, I want to go back and change our main element source again. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in main1 like it was, and we can reinitialize there, and that should get rid of any crawling text that we had. So I'm going to go ahead and save that again. That should be good. It's all set up to go. So that completes the process of creating a crawling ticker within Vizrt Artist.